I don't think he was fit for the job. I think we all sort of had that romantic idea that another Scottish hard-working guy was going to come in and take on where Fergie had left off. He was young. He'd done all right with a mid-table team, got them into the Champions League. He'd never really had money, so we didn't know what it'd be like with spending the money. And we thought it was almost like Fergie giving another young debut to one of the teenagers coming through the academy. But ultimately, he wasn't prepared for that. I think he maybe was the perfect fit for what the job and the role that he had to do at Everton with the resources. But his career since leaving United probably illustrates that he was massively out of his depth for the job at hand. I see a lot of people saying that he shouldn't have got rid of the coaching staff, Rennie Mullenstein and Phelan, and that might have made the transition easier, but I disagree with that. I think if he'd have kept around the coaching staff and the coaching staff had kept that culture under Sir Alex, it might give us a false sort of reading of how good David Moyes actually was. I think the fact that he got rid of those and brought his own men in, it was a clean slate, or as clean as a slate as it could have been. So I think that means he sunk or swum on his own sort of merit rather than maybe the false merit of having coaching staff that had been there and done it. And maybe we might have been more successful if we'd have done that, but ultimately we'd have been kidding ourselves that we had a better manager than we really did. He got Fellaini, we paid more for him, and we didn't end up getting Baines, which we could have got Baines and Fellaini for a combined total less than what we even paid for Fellaini. We only managed to get that done at 11 o'clock on the day of the deadline. I believe that he was told he could get the likes of Bale or Ronaldo when he came, Fabregas, etc., which was very close to coming off. And I believe that probably Woodward, in his naive, it was his first big summer window on the job as well. I think probably wasn't able to get those deals over the line. Again, the same thing with the coaching staff. If he was able to get those players, would it give us a false sense of what David Moyes could actually achieve? Ultimately, no players left, and he brought one player in, and we came 7th instead of being champions the previous year. Now, some of that might have been down to Fergie, some of that might have been down to the injuries Robin Van Persie picked up, but some of it was undoubtedly down to Moyes' ineptitude in some of the bigger games. We got quite far in the Champions League, and you could say it was kind of unlucky against a really strong Bayern Munich side. But how much of that was the players and how much of that was the tactics that the manager was implementing? It seems like he took a lot of things backwards. He might have even advanced a lot of things. The recruitment side of the club, I believe, has been improved because of Moyes. But some of the coaching methods were Stone Age, and some of the things that he was asking champions like Rio Ferdinand and Vidic to look at Phil Jagielka for how to defend, I think is insulting to those players' abilities. And maybe what he was trying to say was illustrate one little thing that Jagielka did that maybe they didn't do in their game. But either way, I think he went about it the entirely wrong way. And I just think the job was far too big for him, and it's arguably too big for one man to follow Fergie anyway. I think you probably need a director of football to come in and work with anyone, including Mourinho, at the club to replace Sir Alex Ferguson properly, and I still hope we do that. He was judged purely on a footballing basis, and I think the writing was on the wall from, I think it was 2 home games consecutively. I think it was Newcastle and Everton in December, and we put no fight up. I think we lost 1-0 both times, and then it was that game in Piraeus against Olympiacos where it was the worst Manchester United performance I've ever seen, and I stand by that to this day. There was no look passes going in from Ashley Young, which maybe you can blame Ashley Young for, but it seemed no one was correcting him on the sideline. It was an awful performance with very good tools at our disposal as well. And I think David Moyes was judged upon football results alone, not for the things he said, although there was some bangers things he come out and said that we aspire to be like Manchester City and Liverpool. That's unforgivable as a Manchester United boss. But I think it was the football. I think if he'd have got Champions League football, they probably would have kept him on for an extra year. But I do think that the minimum requirement for United is Champions League football. That being said, I think if Mourinho doesn't achieve Champions League football this year, I don't think he's going to be judged by the same parameters the previous 2 managers have been judged by, which you can say is unfair. But I think everybody can recognise the progression that United are making, and also the job that Mourinho finds him in is been made difficult by the 2 previous reigns and the buys that they've made and some of the things that they've implemented at the club. And I think Jose Mourinho's task is now significantly harder than the one that David Moyes took over post-Fergie. I think if you had have got Jose Mourinho, again, maybe falsely, he would have maintained some period of success, and if he was to still been in place right now, you would have probably seen a very different Manchester United that was playing the way that Jose wants us to play.
That's perfect.
I don't think he was fit for the job. I think we all sort of had that romantic idea that another Scottish hard-working guy was going to come in and